Next on Worcester News tonight, a Northborough-based chain restaurant files for bankruptcy. What one expert says about the latest company to declare bankruptcy. Plus, an active shooter drill shows the reality of school shootings happening nationwide. Good evening and thanks for joining us. I'm Olivia Lemon. Worcester's tax rate affects both homeowners and businesses, but the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce is worried the dual tax rate is forcing businesses out of the city. Meanwhile, some city councilors say any other changes would affect the residents even more. Our Chandler Walsh joins us live now to explain. Chandler?
Olivia, Worcester's current residential tax rate is $18.91 per $1,000 valuation, and the commercial rate is $34.03. The dual rate has been the trend the past few years. Two longtime businesses leaving Worcester has the Chamber of Commerce concerned. Prime Metals Technologies is moving to Sutton, where the commercial tax rate is less than half of Worcester's. The Chamber's Stuart Loosemore says the city's dual tax rate is partly to blame for the move.
It is certainly part of the decision that every business makes on a daily basis when they figure out where they're going to invest their capital, where they're going to grow, where they're going to relocate.
City Councilor George Russell says neither Prime Metals or Allegro Microsystems discussed tax relief options with the city. Though he's disappointed to see them leave, he's not worried because he says more companies are coming in.
When you balance it out and when you look at the difference to the amount of growth that we have had, I think that Worcester is on the right track.
Russell says making a tighter city budget come May could decrease the tax rate, but he says moving towards a single rate would have a dramatic impact on residential and says the current system is already a trade-off.
The rates that the City Council has put forward in the last few years are not the lowest rates possible for the homeowner. They are a rate that is a compromise rate.
Loosemore says the chamber is working to attract and keep businesses in the city, and the high commercial tax rate is a hard sell. He hopes City Council works to shrink the gap between commercial and residential rates.
If we can stop the trend of the last few years and move in the direction of going towards a single rate, it says to businesses that we appreciate their interest and their investment.
Now, Russell says the current system is a good balance, and he hopes it will stay somewhere in this target area in the coming years. Olivia?
All right, thank you, Chandler. A Northborough-based chain restaurant filed for bankruptcy. Tonight, we're hearing from a bankruptcy law attorney on what this could mean for the future of Bertucci's. Our Rosalind Flaherty has the story.
Northborough-based Bertucci's restaurant files for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The brick oven pizza chain has already closed 15 of their 74 locations.
It's another example of a retail bankruptcy right on the tail of a bunch of others. Most people are familiar with Toys R Us.
Christine Devine is a business bankruptcy and creditors' rights attorney at Myrick O'Connell. She says the filing isn't surprising because Bertucci's may have had a hard time keeping up with fast casual restaurants.
It's places that Bertucci's has to compete with that are cheaper, faster, and they're really putting pressure on the sit down, take your time chains.
The company says Right Lane Dough LLC has agreed to purchase all of Bertucci's assets and assume certain liability.
What they've done is file a whole series of paperwork, which is very common in a good-sized bankruptcy, that lays out what their plan of action is, at least in the short term, and what they hope to accomplish. And what they hope to accomplish, is, at least as of right now, is to close those stores that are unprofitable or not profitable enough, and retain the stores that are still working well.
The chain closed 6 of their locations in Massachusetts, but the one in Westboro remains open. Regulars say they hope it doesn't close and are upset for the company.
This is one of our favorite lunch places. I think I've been going to Bertucci's since 1988. Hate to age myself, but I love the food. I think it's a great bargain.
Bertucci's is a staple place where I bring my family often.
Now, the company has about 4,200 employees, and Devine says hopefully the economy stays strong and workers find new employment. Olivia?
All right, thank you, Rosalind. And one of the Bertucci's locations closing is at the Silver City Galleria in Taunton. Today, the restaurant gave the Bar Stool award George Heath sat on the night he was fatally stabbed to his widow. Back in 2016, a man charged into the restaurant with a knife. George Heath came to the aid of a pregnant waitress and was killed. His wife, Rosemary, says she's honored to have the Bar Stool in her home.
Now I can look at it every day. and I can sit in it and have my coffee, and I can have my lunch and everything every day. So I'm really happy about that. I'm glad that they did this for me.
And Rosemary says although she was saddened to hear the restaurant was closing, it's time to move forward and to put the tragic night behind them. Right now, the search continues in Worcester for a man accused of stabbing a cab driver in the neck. This happened Monday near Edward Street. Police say the suspect got out of the car and tried to get the driver out of the front seat, stabbing him during the struggle. The driver is expected to recover. Anyone with information is asked to contact Worcester Police. Auburn Fire and Police responding to a vehicle rollover earlier this afternoon. The fire department says one person was out of the vehicle when they arrived on scene and was transported to the hospital with minor injuries. The crash happened on Route 290 near the Swanson Road exit. The cause is under investigation. Retired Oxford Fire Chief Sherry Bemis is hoping to celebrate her retirement after more than 30 years on the department. Bemis was Massachusetts' first full-time female fire chief and retired in December. According to a tweet from the Auburn fire chief, Oxford's town manager would not allow any town email or social media to be used to distribute a flyer for her party. Bemis's party is planned for this Saturday evening at the Auburn Elks. We reached out to the town manager, but he could not be reached for comment. Meanwhile, NBC 10 Boston reports Palaia has been on paid administrative leave since he failed an alcohol test on the job. Worcester Public Schools are taking precautions to keep students and faculty safe. Tuesday, the school's nutritional department got a chance to see the realities of an active shooter in the building. A drill at Nelson Place Elementary School simulates the harsh reality of a school shooting.
It helps them thinking of, they think about what's going on around them, be more aware of their surroundings.
Tuesday, Worcester Public Schools Nutritional Department participated in the district's new violent intruder response training called ALICE.
ALICE stands for Alert, Lockdown, Inform, Counter, and Evacuate. So today, myself, who's a certified ALICE instructor, along with 8 Worcester police officers who are also certified, did a hands-on scenario training.
In one scenario, participants followed the old emergency plan of a traditional lockdown. Then they used ALICE training, which gives faculty and staff more tools to effectively fight back.
We train people to make decisions, whether it be to not just lock down, but to barricade the door, to counter the individual coming to the classroom, fight back, or evacuate. If you know the shooters in one section of the school, you might want to evacuate through another section of the school and get as far away from the threat as possible.
Worcester police officer Scott Pulsifer says putting people in these scenarios gives them a better understanding of how to react.
Now you start to improvise, become more proactive instead of just sitting by and being passive.
Meanwhile, school safety director Rob Pizzella says today's training helps people think out of the box when a violent intruder is in the building.
I mean, reality sets in very quickly that when you hear a gunshot in the building, what am I going to do to protect not only myself but others that I'm responsible for? And so today, the different scenarios that we went through and the hands-on scenarios that they were trained to react to was very sobering.
And schools are also purchasing software to give teachers a real-time update on their phones in the case of an active shooter. They are expected to have that by the end of the school year. Now to the 2018 Boston Marathon. One of the final runners to cross the finish line embodies the meaning of perseverance. Mary, the wife from Rich from Tougher and Rich, is a cancer survivor and had to stop at mile 15 on doctor's orders. She says she went into a medical tent shaking with purple lips.
And my doctors all along at Dana-Farber were like, we give you our blessing, but you just got to be safe. Mentally, though, I had this picture in my head of me crossing the finish line. Like, right, I through all the training, I played it out. Like, this is what I was going to do. This is how I was going to finish it.
So she and her husband stopped for a bit, warmed up, and started again later in the night. She finished just after midnight.